Once you've got your results, then there are different ways of outputting it. So here you've got your table of descriptives and you've got your diagrams. So what you can do is you can export that table or copy it. So if I do as an export, I can export it as a PDF or as an HTML file, or I could just copy that particular table. So if I do a copy, I open a Word document, open a blank document, press Ctrl V, and it will paste in that particular table, and you could reformat if you want to. For the images, what you can pick is the group, which is all of them together, or you can pick them individually, and you can export them as PDF, as a PNG, or as an SVG, or as an EPS. EPS is probably outdated, so you don't want to use it, but you can think of either of the other two. So SVG is a vector version of the image. This means if you want it at very high resolution or to blow it up to make a poster, this is the best format to save it, but it's not always accessible using all the different programs that you might use for image manipulation. If you save it as a PNG file, this is a bitmap format, which means it saves each of the pixels that make up the image. So if you blow it up, then it becomes pixelated if it goes to a very high resolution. PNG files are, well, probably they're similar sort of size to SVG. It depends on how much description and how much material there is within the file. PNG is a compressed file type. So if I export that, I can give it, I called it Anderson's Irish Data.png, and we'll save it in the file that you were operating in. Now I've done this analysis, so I can go back, and I was also going to look at the export options for the kind of things that you can save your files as. So I can do a save to a Jamovi file, which produces a .omv file of all the analysis that I've done. If I can save it as that. In Save As, do I have any other choice? No, I still have it as an OMV file, but it allows me just to change the name or change the location if I want to make a copy that way. I wouldn't really suggest doing that. I would suggest making copies externally to the program. And then this export. So export allows you to save the file in different formats. So you can save it as a PDF, doesn't really make much sense. You save it as a web page. You can save it as a Jamovi template. This could be useful if you're going to do analyses and you want to have consistency between the analyses of different data sets which are very similar to each other. So imagine you collected 2 samples of the same sort of data and you wanted to compare one to the other or to present them both together in the same format. If you save a template, then you can load each of the different samples into one of those templates. Comma separated variables is a very useful way of saving files because you can read it into Excel, SPSS, SAS. You can read it into virtually everything. Latex bundle is a particular formatted type of text, so it's a bit like HTML or PDF. If you don't know what it is, you don't want to use it. You can save it as an R object or as a R data file. This is because underneath Jamovi it is using R. So that's useful if you want to then go on to using R itself. You can save it as an SPSS SAV file. You can save it as 2 different types of file for SAS, or you can save it as a file type for Stata. This depends on what other software you have access to. R is free. SPSS, SAS and Stata are all commercial. Depending on the licenses that your company, your business or your university have, depends on which of these you have access to. I know SPSS quite well, and Jamovi has been designed to look a lot like SPSS to make it easier for students to transition from one to the other. But if you don't need it and you're not going to use it, then don't bother. The best format always to save things in is comma separated variables, because this is readable by anything, even a text editor.